All right, and I just came from a midnight screening. It's not actually midnight. It was a little before midnight screening of advanced screening of Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens, out here in Manila. And you know what? I'm gonna put the spoilers a little later. The first few minutes of this review is going to be a non-spoiler review, and then if you still want to listen to if you still want to hear the spoilers, I'm going to say that after a couple minutes. So let's get started. The movie, it was great. It's not perfect by all means, but definitely worth all that hype, all that advertising, and, and just basic excitement building for this movie. It's a nice, fresh reboot, not reboot, but restart and jumpstart actually of Star Wars. I wouldn't call it a reboot. It's a continuity, but it's like, people know Star Wars as a film that was shot in the 70s, 80s, late 90s, and 2000. And, most kids now, they're into Minecraft, they're into Tekken, they're into Warcraft, stuff like that. And it's hard to explain to kids nowadays that, how awesome Han Solo was, or Luke Skywalker, or I mean, they know Star Wars through the cartoons. So I like what J.J. Abrams actually did with this movie, and it's the same feeling I get when he did it with the Star Trek franchise. He sort of like jump started a franchise that was perhaps what a lot of people think was on the way down. But with Disney getting Star Wars, that's not going to happen. They're just going to promote Star Wars. They're going to build it, make it bigger and better. Um, it's actually nice. It's a nice, fresh look to Star Wars. I think what J.J. Abrams did was he said, okay, I'm going to make a movie, a Star Wars movie for the generation today. And yet at the same time, he gave a nod to the Star Wars of the old generation, in the sense that in this movie, he's trying to tell you an awesome and great Star Wars movie, and at the same time tell you how awesome the old Star Wars movies were by referring to a lot of what the good stuff of the old Star Wars films were. And it's like trying to brag to a younger generation, telling, oh, you know how cool the Millennium Falcon is, how you know how cool lightsabers are, you know how cool Luke Skywalker is, all that stuff. But the dark side of the Force, the light side of the Force. He's trying to brag about it to a kid who's now into all these technology and all that. This generation that's might not have been aware of how awesome the Star Wars franchise was back in the day and up to this time. So I watched it with my older daughter, the teenage daughter, and she was like, she wasn't a follower of Star Wars, but she did enjoy the film. So that's the whole general idea of it. So there's a lot of the good stuff that J.J. Abrams put into this new movie, and it's a whole new story. It's a nice way. It's a springboard for what's to come of the future of Star Wars. I was just basically afraid he was going to rip off a lot of the old movies. Like it was going to be Return of the Jedi combined with Empire Strikes Back and maybe Revenge of the Sith, something like that. I was so afraid he was going to do it, but he did not. He included a lot of stuff, a lot of things, the good things about the old Star Wars movies into this new film without overdoing it. He would refer to he would refer to certain things about the old movies and then put them in this new movie. And I like that. I like that, but that he didn't. There's a lot of. I thought it was going to be a Death Star, but it was much bigger than that. It was a lot of the characters you see here. They represent. They're like similar to previous characters in the old trilogies. That's okay, but and yet the stories are very different. So I like that. I like that he didn't disappoint me, and I was just very glad he didn't try to just redo his own version of the trilogies. And this is really, he's like a Star Wars fan trying to create more stories, taking the franchise somewhere else, which, heading in that direction, Yeah, it is a brave, bold move, and I think he pulled it off nicely. Okay, just a few more things. A little bit disappointed with the movie because, and I'm just nitpicking. I think there was so much going on that he wanted to. But this is just nitpicking. That the story could not progress enough. I thought, you get the feeling that he did this as a springboard for the next two installments. So okay, forgiven with that, but I wish the story could have progressed even more. I'll give you more of that later in the spoilers. Okay. Other than that, it's a great movie. There's a lot of fight scenes, a lot of spaceships battling, lightsabers. Yeah, everything you saw in the trailer. Oh man, times 10. Well, not exactly. I mean, but a lot more than that. It's not over the top like Michael Bay, but just great action, great acting all around. I love the characters. They're just so adorable. Everybody was so lovable. Even the bad guys. I mean, there's I thought they were going to be so cliche, but they're not. Um, Maybe one or two characters weren't that believable, but it was all okay. The setting, it was all Star Wars. I'm glad they localized the scenes. The whole movie just takes place in about two or three different locations. They kept it that way. It wasn't as grand as some of the other Star Wars films, but it was great. And he kept true to what Star Wars fans loved about Star Wars. It's great character building, a lot of surprises about the characters, lightsaber duels, blasters firing, spaceships, X-Wing, the big spaceships, the TIE fighters, a Millennium Falcon. You got favorite characters, you got funny moments, you got suspense moments. It's just great. So, I'm going to give the movie a 9 out of 10. I mean, if you can watch it on 3D, you better do it. I mean, it's going to be great. Not 3D theaters is also fine. Go to the theater and just get your tickets. I mean, you're not. I don't think you need to book. God, stay up all night just trying to book tickets online. But yeah, it's a great movie. So with that, I hope you've enjoyed this little review. Now for the spoilers. I'm gonna warn you. These are major epics, major spoilers. I'm gonna tell every single spoiler there is for the movie. If you don't want to be spoiled, you don't want to hear anything, just turn off this video and watch it afterwards. For those of you who are excited and to know everything about the movie before watching it, here are the spoilers. Number one. Okay, wait. All these characters, all these figures, all these characters, they do appear in the movie. Some are small roles, some are big roles, but all of them are present in the movie, which is, wow, I was very surprised. Second, for those of you thinking Luke Skywalker is Kylo Ren, he's not. Okay, I'm going to tell you now. Luke Skywalker is Luke Skywalker. The only reason he's not in the trailer because he's not in the movie. Well, he is in the movie in the last minute of the movie. The very last minute of the movie. The whole movie's premise is that the Republic's back. Okay, and it's like there's a rise of the Nazis kind of thing going on. The rise of the First Order, and they want to bring back the Empire. It's like that's how the Nazis popped up. And then somehow there is a resistance, a secret army that's being funded by the Republic, which is, I think, kind of weird. There's a Republic, then they should have made safeguards to prevent any more Empire-ish type of factions sprouting up. But I don't know. They were weak, so there. Then Luke Skywalker's disappeared. Okay, I find that weird. I mean, I like the idea that he's gone. Maybe somebody took him. But in the movie, they revealed that he disappeared because something happened. He started a new Jedi school, and he was training apprentices, and one of the apprentices turns rogue, and he decides to betray everybody. And Luke felt so bad about it that he decided to become a hermit and a recluse and just leave everything at all because he thought it was his fault, which is, I'm not entirely sure if that's how the Luke we know would behave. I mean, for me, if you make a mistake, you shouldn't leave it. I mean, for somebody who's very responsible as Luke, I would think that he would want to stay and fix his mistake. But instead, he just takes himself away. But he leaves a map. He leaves a map to where he is, or somebody leaves a map to where to find him. And that's the whole crux of the story. There is a map on how to find Luke. And both the dark side and the light side, they're fighting for that. The resistance, and they're fighting to get that map, which Poe Dameron gets from some guy and puts it in BB-8. And everybody's looking for the BB-8 droid. And everybody comes in, and everybody just meets everybody, and just how lives connect and how lives meet. Okay. And obviously the light side, the good, will always defeat the bad, but at a very, very high cost. And for very, very hardcore fans of this Star Wars, at the end, you'll know when I say that it is a very Pyrrhic victory at a big, big cost. Yes, somebody dies. Okay, I'll tell you that later. So that's number 2. Number 3, Kylo Ren. Okay, he's not Luke. Then who is he? He is Ben. If I watch the movie correctly, his name is Ben, and his last name is Solo. He is the son of Han Solo and Leia, and I'm glad these two characters. God, like you see them on screen, it's like, man, they were so young before. Now they've aged, and you still can't take that image of how the young they were back in Return of the Jedi and Empire Strikes Back. And yes, they do have a son, and his name is Ben. I think that's what I heard. And he turns rogue. Han and Leia send him to Luke so that he could train him, and he's the one who turns rogue. And Luke feels bad. He gets seduced by the dark side, and who else seduces him? Who else would seduce him except it's not the Emperor, but it's some guy named Snoke. He's like the leader of the First Order, Snoke. And I didn't quite get that story. They never introduced him. It was stated like a matter of fact that he got seduced by the dark side by this Snoke, by Grand Leader Snoke. And I wish they would explain it more in the next installment. So when he turns rogue, he turns bad, he turns to the dark side. Han and Leia didn't know how to deal with it. Leia just did what she knew what to do, was start a rebellion, and Han went back to smuggling. So it was a nice teary moment when these two characters meet each other again after a long period of time, and you get to get some nostalgic factor. I was a bit teary-eyed. I was just, I just didn't want to cry with my daughter here beside me. But anyway, it was a very, very exciting. It was a very touching moment when they meet and C-3PO comes in. You get to see R2-D2. I mean, with all these new characters, then the old characters just keep popping up. Even the way Han Solo and Chewbacca come out when he loses the Millennium Falcon, but these two, they take the Millennium Falcon and he gets the Millennium Falcon back, and you get a lot of nostalgia. They're like, J.J. Abrams knows how to just in the whole thing brags about the Millennium Falcon. So for those who don't know the Millennium Falcon, they're watching Star Wars for the first time. It's like, wow, you get to really appreciate that. So he is the son, and obviously his grandfather would be Darth Vader. And Han says there's just too much of Vader in him. That's why he turned into the dark side. So that's that. Captain Phasma, great acting. I just wish they could have given him more time. Wish they could have taken off her helmet and showed it was Gwendolyn Christie. She had a very small role in the movie, just the leader of the troopers. That's it. I hope we get to see more of her in the next installment. Stormtroopers, yes. General Hux, he's like Grand Moff Tarkin. He's like the leader, fighting over Vader for the position of whoever is number one next, or number one or next in line with the Emperor. That's just it. These two guys, yes, this guy does appear. He's riding on that little, armored up rhino or armored up elephant, whatever. And yes, these two, he tries to get it, but they don't do it together. He tries to get him first. Rey rescues him. He goes with Rey, and then in the market he tries to get him because of a bounty. Guavian Enforcer, one of the thugs looking for Han Solo. Yes, he appears, and this droid, very little screen time, but helper, one of those aids, tactical droids for the Resistance. Okay. All right, next spoiler. You see me holding this. Yes, Finn uses it, but he doesn't use it well. This lightsaber is actually wielded very, very nicely by Rey, and Rey is the central hero of the film, and man, does she kick ass! She's like, she knows martial arts. She's like climbed rock climbs. And she is the one. She is the Force Awakens. It's with her that the Force awakens. She wields the Force in the movie. You can't explain it, but somehow she is strong in the Force. And she escapes by using the Force. She fights Kylo Ren and defeats Kylo Ren using the Force. And oh my God, she is my favorite Star Wars character for this upcoming trilogy, and I cannot get enough of her. Amazing, and the acting was great. Daisy Ridley did a wonderful job with this one, and yes, she wields that lightsaber amazingly. Awesome. Okay, that's number 4. Number 5, Finn doesn't die. He gets seriously injured, but gets to medical bay. And he's got a pulse, he's got a heartbeat. He's okay. He'll be fine in the next installment, but he's in bad shape. The person who dies in the movie is Han Solo. When he leaves Leia tells him, when they go on a mission to the Starkiller Base. Starkiller Base is actually a base that has a big gun that they rammed into a planet. So the planet turned into a Death Star, whatever. They infiltrate it, and he tries to convince Ben, or Kylo Ren, to turn to good, to come home. Because Leia says, when you see our son, tell him to come home. And he sort of struggles with it. In the movie, he's struggling from the seduction to the light side. It's like, it's showing that those with the dark side can still come back to the light side. And he's struggling with it. And he tells his father, I'm struggling with it. I don't know what to do, and I'm not strong enough to do it. So will you help me? And he says, he gives him the lightsaber, and then he ignites the lightsaber and kills Han Solo, which is, that just at the get-go of that scene, you knew Han was going to die. And I think the producers are thinking, I don't know if they're thinking that Harrison Ford is not going to last another 2 movies. Come on, man. But it's like the title could have been Star Wars The Force Awakens or Star Wars Han Solo's Last Run. I mean, I don't want to say glorious death, but it was very, very dramatic. And for people who grew up with Star Wars, that was a very, very sad moment. When Han Solo dies, his body gets flipped over and falls from 30 feet or something like that from the caverns of Starkiller Base. And that was very sad. And you knew from the get-go of the scene that J.J. Abrams set up, he was going to die. And I hate it. And Leia senses it, and they get angry for him. They start charging him. They kill Chewbacca. Yeah, man. It was very sad. Okay, 5th spoiler. Rey, they find the map. They put together the pieces together with the help of R2 and BB-8. Rey goes with Chewie and R2-D2 to that place where Luke is. And that's how it ends. Rey finds Luke. Luke is in his Jedi robe, bearded and all. Looks like a big fat Obi-Wan Kenobi. Or Ben Kenobi. And the last scene is Rey, without saying anything, gets the lightsaber and tries to return it to Luke. It's a long scene, and that's it. That's how it ends. And for Filipinos out there, you'll understand when I say it was bitin. Bitin means it's short. Like when your pants are short, cut short, it's bitin. Okay? It just drives you insane that the next movie is going to be out 2 or 3 years from now, and I want to know what happens. So it kind of sucks. It was great. It was a great ride. Oh, by the way, these things, there is a purpose for that. So that when he does it with Finn, so that when you're locked in lightsabers, he can use this to actually poke you like that, like poke your arm, like that, poke your leg, whatever. He uses that. That's what it's for some reason. I don't know if that will work in real life, but. Anyway, so, it was a great run. It was very exciting. You don't have to, it's nice if you've seen all the other Star Wars films before this, but even if you hadn't, it won't stop you from appreciating this movie. It's a great film. I hope you see it with your kids, your family. Wonderful. It's still going to get a 9 out of 10 from me, a very, very high 9. I just wish the story could have moved further. Wish could have seen more of the characters. I wish it wasn't bitin. It didn't end like too much of a cliffhanger, but it was a good cliffhanger. It wasn't like somebody's about to die cliffhanger. It's just like, oh my God, Luke and Leia. And one more thing before I go. I wanted to say my thoughts on who Rey is. They didn't say much about him. It's just there was a scene that as a child she was left on Jakku for some reason. And I'm not sure, but I'm hoping, or my suspicions are she's either a Solo or a Skywalker, as a lot of fans already said. But had she been a Solo, I'm sure Leia would have said something, or Han would have sensed it, or Leia would have sensed it, or there was Leia would have looked at her differently. Instead, she just felt for her. There was just so much compassion and for each other, but there was no special look to her. So I'm thinking she's a Skywalker. But Luke, I don't think Luke ever married. He became a Jedi. It's a priesthood. I don't know if you were allowed to marry or have children. So in the comic books, in the old comic books, before Marvel got Star Wars back, Han and Leia had a boy and a girl. I'm thinking maybe in the next installment it will be revealed. If in Empire Strikes Back we have, no, Luke, I am your father. Maybe in the next installment, no, Rey, I am your brother. Maybe we'll have something like that. That would have been, that's the explosive reveal. Probably that could work in the next installment. Or, no, Rey, I am your cousin. It could work. But she is strong in the Force, and I'm pretty sure in the next movie she will be trained by Luke. I just can't shake the feeling that she could be a Skywalker or a Solo. So that's just my thought. Anyway, very, very long, rough and dirty review of Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens. Brilliant film. I hope you guys get to see it. And for those of you who are going to watch it, enjoy. And till next time, thanks for watching.